channel. Let us see the topic gynecium of chapter 1 in botany, namely asexual and sexual reproduction in plants. Before getting into the topic, let us recall the structure of the flower. So usually the flower is made up by 4 whorls, 2 outer whorls and 2 inner whorls. The outermost whorls happen to be the calyx and made by sepals, so they are usually green in color. The second whorl is happen to be the corolla. The corolla is made up by the petals and they happen to be the brightly colored portion of the flower. The third whorl is happen to be the androecium made up by the stamens. And the last inner whorl is said to be the gynecium, the female reproductive organ of the flower, and this is nothing but the innermost whorl of the flower. So the gynecium represents the female reproductive part of the flower and it represents one or more pistils. So the word pistil refers to ovary, style and stigma. So it's made by stigma on top, a slender portion called the stalk, style, and the ovary at the base. The pistil is derived from the carpels. Altogether, the gynecium is derived from the carpel. The gynecium is made up by stigma on top, followed by a slender stalk-like structure called as a style, and at the base it contains the ovary, which is enclosing the ovule inside. So once when the pollen grains are deposited on the stigma, the pollen grains has to travel towards a style, and finally it has to reach the embryo sac for fertilization. So the ovules are usually present inside the ovary cavity, what is also called as locule on the placenta. So the gynecium usually arises from the papillary outgrowth of the meristematic tissue, and after getting formation, it usually differentiates into the stigma, style, and the ovary. The ovules are also called as megasporangia, which arises from the placenta. So depending upon the number of availability of the ovules, it can be sometimes one or sometimes it can be many. So the number of ovules in an ovary may be one, as in case of paddy, wheat and mango, and it can be many, as in the case of papaya, watermelon and orchid. So if it is one, it forms single seed, and if the ovules are many, it forms many seeded fruit. Next is happen to be the structure of the ovula megasporangium. So ovule is also called as the megasporangium, and it's usually protected by two coverings, what are called as integments. An outer covering known as the outer integument, an inner covering called as the inner integument. Thus the ovule is protected by the two integments. So a mature ovule consists of a stalk of the body, and even it is made up by a stalk-like structure, what is called as a funiculus or funicle. And the stalk of funiculus is present at the base and attaches to the ovule to the placenta. So thereby the funicle is attached to the ovule by a tissue called as the placenta. And the next is said to be hilum. Hilum is nothing but a junction between the funicle, the nothing but the stalk, and the body of the ovule. So the body of the ovule is united with the funicle. At the juncture it forms a structure called as hilum. So the point of attachment of funicle to the body of the ovule is known as the hilum, and it represents the junction between the ovule and the funicle. So hilum is nothing but the junction between the funicle and the ovule. And in an inverted ovule, the funicle is adnate to the body of the ovule, forming a ridge called as the raphe. So inside the funicle forms a ridge, what is called as a raphe. And the body of the ovule is made up of central mass of parenchymatous tissue called as nucellus. Inside the ovule, there is a mass of tissue which is nothing but parenchyma cells. This parenchymatous cells found inside the ovule is known as the nucellar or nucellus tissue, which contains a large reserve food material in finally supplying to the embryo sac. Here the nucellus is shown. So the nucellus is usually covered by the two integments, inner integument and the outer integument. So the nucellus is completely wrapping the nucellus except the topmost region called as the micropyle. So sometimes the integument may be one, to known as unitegmic, or sometimes it may be two, to known as bitegmic in nature. Next is happen to be the chalaza. So chalaza is nothing but the basal region or body of the ovule where the nucellus, the integuments and the funicles meet or merge is called as the chalaza. And inside the nucellus there is a oval shaped sac-like structure called as the embryo sac towards the micropylar end, and this embryo sac is also called as the female gametophyte, and this embryo sac usually happens to be the functional megaspore formed within the nucellus. The embryo sac is usually going to get nourishment from the nucellular tissue, so that the inner cells of the integuments will act as the nutritious tissue which is going to supply the nourishment to the embryo sac. So in some species unitegmic or tenucellate, the inner layer of the integuments may become specialized to perform the nutritive function for the embryo sac, so that they are called as endothelium or integumentary tapetum, as in case of Asteraceae. Depending upon the position of the sporogenous cells, there are two types of ovules. One is said to be tenucellate type, and the second one is said to be the crassinucellate type. So in case of tenucellate type, the sporogenous cells is hypodermal with a single layer of nucellular tissue. And here if we see, the megasporophyte is shown, and the megasporocyte is usually covered by a single layer of cells. So this single layer of cells covering the megasporocyte is happen to be tenucellate type, and usually the ovules are very small, nucelless. And the next one is happen to be crassinucellate type, where the subhypodermal sporogenous cells is called as crassinucellate type. So the megasporocyte is usually covered by many layers of the cells. So such a nature is called as crassinucellate type. And these ovules are fairly large, nucelless. And the next one is said to be the nucellus can be differentiated into hypostase and epistase. So hypostase is a region whereby from the chalaza till the embryo sac, the cells which are located in between the chalaza and the embryo sac are called as hypostase, and the cells which are located in between the micropyle end and till the embryo sac is called as the epistase. So group of cells found at the base of the ovule between the chalaza and the embryo sac is called as hypostase, and thick-walled cells found above the micropyle end above the embryo sac is called as the epistase. So the next one is happen to be types of ovules. So the ovules can be broadly divided into 6 major types based on the orientation, form and position of the micropyle with respect to the funicle and the chalaza. So most importantly, the ovules may be of orthotropous, anatropous, hemianatropous and camelotropous. So the first case is said to be orthotropous, whereby the micropyle lies in the distal end, the chalaza and the funicle lies in a vertical straight line. Such a type is called as orthotropous type of ovule. This can be seen in case of the examples Piperaceae and Polygonaceae family. The second type is anatropous, whereby the body of the ovule becomes completely inverted. The ovule becomes inverted, and the micropyle and the funicle they lie very close with each other. So the micropyle and the funicle, they lie very close with each other. So this is common in case of the families monocots and dicots. The next one is said to be hemianatropous, whereby the ovule lies just transverse to the funicle, or just they lie right angle to the funicle. So thereby such a type of ovule formation lying transversely to the funicle is called as hemianatropous. This can be seen in the family Primulaceae. The fourth type is said to be campylotropous, where the body of the ovule at the micropylar end is curved. So here once when we see the micropylar end, the ovule is curved at the micropylar end, and more or less they are in bean shapes. Also the ovule is said to be bean shaped. So once when we see here, the ovule is happen to be bean in shape, and the embryo sac also gets curved. The embryo sac is also curved in nature. All the three, hilum, micropyle and the chalaza. So the micropyle, the hilum and the chalaza, they lie very adjacent with each other, and the micropyle oriented towards the placenta, example Leguminaceae. So this seen in case of Leguminaceae family. Apart from the four types, additionally we have two more types called Amphitropous and Sarcinotropous. So in case of Amphitropous, the distance between the hilum and the chalaza is less. So the chalaza and the hilum is very less in distance, and the curvature of the ovule leads to horseshoe shaped nucellus. So depending upon the ovule nature, the nucellus appears to form a horseshoe, and this can be seen in the family Alismataceae. Sarcinotropous funiculus is very long and surrounding the complete ovule. So the funiculus is very long enough and completely it also surrounds the complete ovule. Such a type is called as Sarcinotropous type of ovule. and this is found in case of the family Cactaceae. And the next is happened to be megasporogenesis. So this question we may get in 2-mark point of view. Define megasporogenesis. So it can be defined as the process of development of a megaspore from a megaspore mother cell is called as megasporogenesis. Already we know the structure of the ovule. So the ovule develops a single hypodermal cells in the nucellus, becomes enlarged, as well as it functions as an archisporium. So this archisporium will act as the megaspore mother cell. So the megaspore mother cell may undergo transverse division to form outer parietal cells as well as inner primary sporogenous cells. So the parietal cells may remain undivided or divided by a few periclinal and anticlinal divisions. So this already we know, periclinal in the sense once when the cells divide parallelly and they are called as periclinal. Once when the cells divide perpendicularly, they are called as anticlinal divisions, and to embed the primary sporogenous cells deep into the nucellus. So thereby the megaspore mother cells divide transverse primarily to form primary parietal cells and the primary sporogenous cells. So the primary sporogenous cells functions as the megaspore mother cells. So these are going to happen as the megaspore mother cells. The megaspore mother cells undergoes meiotic division to form 4 haploid mother cells. So this megaspore mother cell will produce the 4 haploid megaspores. So based on the number of megaspores available in the embryo sac, it can be divided into 3 basic types, namely monosporic, bisporic and tetrasporic. So the megaspores usually they are arranged in a linear tetrad manner. So of the 4 megaspores, one which is on the chalazal end will be functional and the other 3 will degenerate. So in this picture it is clearly shown this happen to be the megaspore mother cell will produce the 4 haploid cells, among which the one which is on the chalazal end will be functional and the 3 will degenerate. So the functional megaspore forms the female gametophyte. The one on the chalazal end which is functional will convert as the female gametophyte or the embryo sac. Such a type is called as monosporic development. Example, Polygonum. And of the 4 megaspores formed, if 2 are involved in embryo sac formation, then it is called as bisporic formation. Example, Allium. Among the 4, if 2 are involved in the formation of embryo sac, such a type is called as bisporic type of formation in case of Allium. And suppose if all the 4 megaspores are responsible for the formation of embryo sac, such a method is called as tetrasporic development. Example, Peperomia. So an ovule always have a single embryo sac. So the next is happen to be development of monosporic embryo sac. So the functional megaspore is the first cell of the embryo sac or the female gametophyte. The megaspore elongates along the micropylar and the chalazal axis. So towards the micropyle and toward the chalaza, the embryo sac gets extended and the nucleus undergoes mitotic division. So thereby the nucleus undergoes mitotic division and the wall formation does not follow the nuclear division. So there is no wall formation after the nucleus get divided. And in this picture it is clearly shown this is happened to be the megaspore mother cell which is diploid in nature. This megaspore mother cell which is diploid in nature undergo meiotic division to produce 4 daughter cells. And among the 4 daughter cells, the one on the top is known as the chalazal cell, and this will be functional and the 3 remaining will degenerate. And the one which is functional is happen to be on the topmost, which will get converted into the megaspore, and this megaspore will continue to divide by mitotic cell division. So the single nucleus will divide into 2 nuclei. In between a small vacuole is formed. Later the vacuole also persists to perform into larger in size. So later the 2 nuclei will divide into 4 nuclei and the 4 nuclei later into 8 nuclei. So a large central vacuole now appears between the 2 daughter nuclei. A vacuole expands and pushes the nuclei towards the opposite poles of the embryo sac. Both the nuclei divide twice mitotically, forming 4 nuclei at each poles. Later from the 4 cells it forms the 8 nuclei. So 8 nuclei are commonly present in the cytoplasm. So after the last nuclear division, the cell undergoes appreciable elongation, assuming a sac-like appearance. So at the final stage or the final nuclear division, the embryo sac attains the sac-like appearance. So this is followed by the cellular organization of the embryo sac. And this is said to be the structure of the embryo sac. This is the chalazal end, and this is said to be the micropylar end. In between, a large vacuole is seen. So once when we come to the micropylar end, there are 4 nuclei, in which 3 nuclei will act as the egg apparatus, and the one which is left free will get into the cytoplasm to act as the polar nucleus 1. And coming to the chalazal end, there are 4 nuclei again, among which the 3 nuclei will act as the antipodals, and the 1 nucleus will come to the cytoplasm, and this will act as the lower polar nucleus. In this picture, it is clearly shown the embryo sac consisting of the 8 nuclei. So towards the micropylar end, there are 3 nuclei, among which 2 nuclei are called as synergids, and the one in between the 2 synergids is known as the egg cell. So thus 3 nuclei are found towards the micropylar end. And now coming to the chalazal end, there are 3 nuclei. These 3 nuclei towards the chalazal end are called as the antipodals. In between these both, there is a centrally situated 2 polar nuclei, and sometimes these polar nuclei may be free, or sometimes it can be fused together. Sometimes if they are fused, they are called as the secondary nucleus, and also to form the central cell. The egg apparatus is made up of central egg cell and 2 synergids, one on each side of the egg cell. So synergids secretes a chemotropic substance that help to attract the pollen tube, so that the synergid secretes a chemotropic substance that attracts the pollen grains towards the egg cell. So these synergids have certain special cellular thickening called filiform apparatus. This filiform apparatus of the synergids are responsible for absorption, conduction of nutrients from the nucellus to the embryo sac. It also guides the pollen tube into the egg cell. So thereby the synergids are responsible for guiding the pollen tube towards the egg cell. Thus a 7-celled with 8 nucleated embryo sac is usually formed. So thereby we get a 7-cell but 8 nuclei structure in the embryo sac. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a 7-cell with 8 nuclei in the embryo sac condition is formed. So with that the structure of gynoecium is getting over. Regarding the other topics, we'll see in the next videos. Thank you.